Alright, good evening sa inyong lahat at welcome po sa live streaming ng In Between dito sa Facebook Live and on our YouTube channel. Ngayon po ay February 17, 2021. We call this In Between because it is in between our weekly Saturday technology talk show, TechSabado. And of course, in between din ang guest namin ng TechSabado at ni Attorney
Melvin Kalimag po ng Newsbytes.PH. Magandang gabi, umaga dyan sa ating guest kasi nasa US siya. And tanghali siguro dun sa Middle East. Yun. Okay. Sa lahat ng ating followers, magandang araw sa inyo. Araw at gabi.
Okay, remind po natin ating mga viewers no na suportahan niyo po ang In Between. Meron po tayong way para masuportahan niyo po kami. Nakapost po sa ating Facebook live comment section and of course sa aming YouTube channel. May link po yan. At syempre, huwag niyo po kalimutan, nasa podcast din po ang In Between every pagdating po na Friday sa Spotify. So mga nagko-comment, no, maki-join in lang po tayo sa ating sa ating conversation at makipag-interact po kayo sa amin. And of course, introduce ang ating guest, no, dahil pag In Between po, pag Wednesday, dire-diretso agad tayo sa guest kasi napaka-interesting yung mga storya ng mga buhay nila when it comes to their role in technology. Tony?
Okay, Jing, ang ating guest ngayon is very youthful, young, but hindi siya pero hindi siya kulang sa experience, no? He's actually a rockstar.
Silicon Valley rockstar ba?
Silicon Valley rockstar. Let's say, to be very specific, startup rockstar siya.
Startup rockstar ba?
So in his very short time na sa industry, well, he's still in the industry. Nakapagtayo kagad ng dalawang incubators yan, ang ating guest. Yung, kung alam niyo po, yung IdeaSpace talaga, sikat po yan. Hanggang ngayon po, maraming in-incubate yan ng mga startups. And of course, yung Kubo, ang pronunciation Kubo. It's also an accelerator naman to, parang ganon.
Papa-explain natin sa kanya, ano ba ibig sabihin?
Syempre, explain ko yan.
Saka accelerator. Ano ba yung mga term na yan, di ba?
Sige. Tapos, i-introduce natin tapos kwento natin sa kanya yung buhay niya from the start. From pagkabata siguro pa, kahit hanggang elementary siya kasi nag-migrate yata siya eventually sa US. Introduce natin si Earl Valencia, co-founder ng IdeaSpace and Kubo, and now the co-founder as well. Again, co-founder na naman siya ng Plentina, not Plantita. Plentina. It's mamaya papaliwanag niya. Earl, good morning to you and good evening to our...
good morning at good evening sa mga guests. Tapos sabi mo nga, may mga tao pa sa ibang lugar, no? So baka nga good afternoon pa, no? So,
yeah, correct.
Hindi ko alam na buong mundo pala ang audience nyo. So,
hindi naman. Kasi maraming mga OFWs na nakikipag discuss, nagtatanong sila while the show is going on through, nagko-comment sila. Yes, marami. Minsan Ireland, Russia, Germany,
all over the world,
Middle East, marami online. Yun. So ngayon, Earl, your current base is in the US, right?
Oo. So ngayon nasa US po ako sa mga nakikinig. Pero
where exactly?
So I'm in 1 hour north of New York City sa Connecticut. So actually madami mga Pinoy dito sa may New York area, 'di ba? So sa may New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, madami pong Pinoy around here. So okay po 'yun. Pero typically I'm also in San Francisco sa may Silicon Valley. Pero yun nga ang goal ko sana either pumunta ako sa Silicon Valley or minsan sa Philippines siguro ako ngayon, pero na po tayo sa pandemic na-stuck po tayo. Hopefully lahat nakikinig safe and healthy po lahat.
Okay, Earl, can we start your
of course.
Life from the very start.
Sige,
where did you study? Where did you grow up? Ano bang give us a brief background of yourself?
Sure, definitely. So for me, I actually the first number of years of my life. So I was actually born sa US for only a few months. Actually, I was in the US for a few months. Tapos pumunta yun, bulak yung parents ko sa Philippines. Tapos actually, nag-grow up pa ako sa Davao. So the first 5 to 6 years, I was in Davao.
So you can speak Bisaya?
Hindi ako nakat-Bisaya na Pero yun, sister ko, brother ko. So yun, dun kasi yun business nung grandfather ko sa Davao yun.
Okay.
So yun yung parang base namin. In fact, pati mga cousins ko na sa Davao pa ngayon So
okay.
Tapos bandang mga 5-6 years old, pumunta na kami sa Manila. Tapos nag-study ako sa Manila. So
what school?
Interesting trivia. You like this,
okay.
No? So nung prep ako, kinder tsaka prep, nasa Assumption San Lorenzo ako. Which is an all-girls school. Pero apparently, nung time na yon, pag medyo bata, pwede yung mga lalaki. So, isa ako sa mga kasama dun sa Assumption San Lo. So, dun ako. Tapos mag-grade 1 to 4th year, pumunta ako sa La Salle Zobel.
In Alabang?
Oo, sa Alabang. So, doon ako nag high school at saka ng grade school. Tapos pumunta ako sa UP after nun, no? Before pumunta ako sa States. So, pero doon time na yon actually, so, yung sinasabi yun kung kailan ba yun parang moment nung bata ako na naisip ko yung siguro technology or something. So, yung isang tita ko, yun nga, OFW, nasa Houston, Texas. Diba? So, one of the times, visit ng parents ko yung tita ko. Tapos sa Houston, yung mission control ng NASA. NASA head.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yun! I mean, bata lang ako, no? Di ko lang kung ano nangyayari, diba? So, nakita ko parang, okay to, may mga rockets, gano'n, may mga Tapos meron ko yung tour guide, no?
Okay.
Sabi ko, excuse me, ba? How do I work here? Diba? Sa NASA. Siyempre, ako 10 or 11, di ko nga alam. So sinabi niya, almost a lot of people here are engineers. You should think about that too. And sabi ko, at the time, I didn't even know what an engineer really was. No? So from that point on, na 11 or 10 or 11 ako, parang punta na sa mind ko na parang baka kailangan maging engineer ako or technologist. So yun, parang literally pagbalik ko, sinabi ko sa teacher ko, grade 4, sabi ko, I think I want to become an astronaut. Nagulat siya. Sabi niya, paano mo na even naisip yun? So from that point on, I was like really focusing na on kind of technology, etc. Tapos sa UP, nag-ECE ako. So Electronics, Communications, Engineering. Doon ako ng almost 3 years before lumipat ako sa the States to finish my undergraduate sa Boston. So mga isko sa mga nakikinig. Hello.
Okay. So but you finish your course 1 or 2 years sa Boston na?
Siyempre. I did that for about 2 years in Boston.
Okay. What course is that? What course was that?
I finished electrical engineering kasi walang ECE So parang hindi specialized, so broad. Pero yung courses ko is related to ECE, so communications. Yung time kasi na yun, I went to college. I started in the kind of late 90s. I finished in the early 2000s. Yun sikat na yung Nokia phone So parang lahat ng mga tao, inisip nila, parang kailangan ng mga ECE. Tapos syempre yung telco sa Philippines, bago pa lang, Globe, Smart, all these things. PhilTel pa yata ng panahon na yun. So parang madaming mga ng ECE. So I finished that. But then, after ng college, I had the choice, no? Either mag-school pa ako, right, to do PhD or master's. Pero binigyan ako ng offer ng isang aerospace company, pangalan niya Raytheon. They're the biggest actually aerospace company in the world now. Before they're not as big, but now they're bigger. And my goal was to actually do satellites and rockets. So yun yung parang first job ko is to parang may model ako of the world, tapos how do I, let rockets fly around the world, etc. So parang game pero very interesting.
Wow. That's very interesting. So, in a way, you were able to accomplish your childhood dream.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, it's not exactly it, pero in a way it was, no? Kasi, imagine there was a time, and this is really interesting. There's a time na, I would think of, how do I, fly rockets, or at least how do I even stop, kunyari, rockets from going one point to another. So, basically, yeah, it was a little bit of as close as I can in the dream that I wanted to become kind of an astronaut. But sabi nga na, all dreams doesn't have to end. So in the end, baka doon naman ako sa commercial space flight pag, at some point magano tayo, no? Mag-conquer tayo ng space. In fact, that was my master's thesis. So
it's happening now, diba?
Oh, it's happening now. So when I guess pumunta ako sa Cornell, which is a different school for aerospace engineering naman for masters. And then yun yung thesis ko is space exploration. Elon Musk was just new and everybody's new, pero now parang nangyayari na. So interesting na 15 years ago yung master's thesis ko, tumutotoo na, no? Very interesting.
Wow.
Earl, baka ikaw ang first Pinoy sa Mars, ha?
Ay, hindi ko alam. Oo. Pero, we'll see. Ang very interesting. Well, I think it's for humanity ang sinasabi nga nila, pero hindi natin alam, di ba?
Pero Earl, yung involvement mo dun sa Raytheon, this is the reason why you able to pursue your master's in Stanford, is that right?
Yeah. So tama. So I was in Raytheon in total 4 years, but I had basically a 10-month leave in the middle. And kasi noong time na yun, parang na-expose naman ako sa business, no? So parang sa management side of leadership. So parang I was in the leadership development program of the company, so I moved all around. I worked sa actually all the things you can think about, sa Mission Impossible, no? Drones, rockets, ganon. Mga secret things that I can't talk about in the public, no? Pero it's very interesting. But one thing that I thought about is, how do I build things from scratch, no? I mean, in Raytheon, what I really liked is that they said, hey, by the way, like may problem tayo, how do we fix it, etc. How do we build technology for it? And it's like, oh, interesting. And then there was one time, during that specific period, na there was this new companies coming out of the same part of the world, right? So Google, Yahoo, right? All these things came out of one school, right? They came out of a school in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, sa Stanford. And in fact, when I was lucky because my brother, who's a physical therapist, he did his internship, like master's student siya sa may Northeast. Tapos he did this internship sa Stanford. Tapos binida ako doon. Tapos ano kaya tour nito? Kasi di ko alam kung ano ba itong Stanford na to. Tapos nakita ko doon sa museum nila. Well, actually, the one big thing is yung engineering quad nila, yung isang building, ang pangalan, the Hewlett Hall, yung isang building, yung Packard Building. Tapos sabi ko, parang familiar itong mga pangalan na to, no? Familiar no? Tapos parang sabi ko, uy, parang ito siguro yung galing yung HP. Di ba? Yeah. So parang ako na parang, wow, parang interesting na may school na dito pala galing yung HP. Tapos the more that I learned about it, a number of the Intel people came from there. Obviously, Yahoo came from there. By the time Google was growing up. So all these companies are coming out of actually, if not Stanford, the similar area of Stanford, right? So sabi ko, wow, this is an interesting place. And to be honest, suntok sa buwan, it's very hard to get into Stanford, especially their business school. So I just applied. I applied lang. At sabi ko, bahala na si Batman, di ba? Parang kung pasok ko din. And, and then at some point, someone called me and said, oy, we're interested in what you're doing. You should interview for the school. And Sabi ko, ay, totoo ba to, no? So, my view of business at the time was very straight, no? So, kala ko mga business people, mga strict, yung mga nakita natin din sabihin, nakasuit o nakabarong, di ba?
Yeah.
Sabi ko, ganito yung business. So, may nagsabi sa akin, let's go have your interview in sa LA, no? Sa Santa Monica. So, sabi ko, should I wear a suit and a tie? Sir, sabi ko pa. Tapos sabi ng guy, I'll be in jeans and a leather jacket and I hope you're not overdressed. And let's meet in Starbucks by the beach. Sabi ko, business ba to? Sabi ko, it's interesting. So, after that conversation, sabi niya, I think you have the wrong impression of what business is. So, parang na-open yung mind ko na, baka ganito yung Silicon Valley style, no? And the lesson also, iba yung culture pala. Tapos yung lesson is to keep on trying, no? I mean, yung mga listeners natin dito, no? I mean, how would I know, di ba? Parang, yung mga ganitong opportunities, try mo lang naman. Pag sinabi ko sarili ko na, pag nakapasok, pwede nakapasok, di kapasok. Diba? Parang ganun, no? And naswertehan ako. And in fact, that was so lucky that may mga tests kasi to get into Stanford. Tapos that 1 year, they wanted to do an experiment for people not to take this specific test. It's called the GMAT. It's the school to go to business schools. And to replace it with a different test. So yun yung ginawa ko. So I was the first admit in the school not to take this standardized test because parang ni-replace ko, nag-experiment sila ng time ko. So even that alone, I didn't know how it worked. Pero nakapasok ako na, I think ilan lang yung Pinoy doon, no? Siguro 2 lang or 3 siguro.
Earl, your graduate journey, studies in Stanford, kind of reminds me of someone very famous then, who eventually, translated his interest in aerospace engineering into business. Si Dado Banatao, di ba?
Si Dado. Of course.
Kasi
tama.
Di ba, he initially, went to the US on a PAL scholarship. And then he worked in Boeing. Then nag-aral siya sa Stanford. And then in Stanford, he was able to take his masters and then eventually become a businessman and then a very successful guy. So during your press con, Earl, he was also parang an inspiration or a mentor parang sa iyo.
Yeah. In fact, I was talking to him and, in my first conversation and he told me, Earl, you should stick to engineering, diba? Sabi ko, ganun. This was like when I was in Stanford. Sabi ko, ba't ka pa nag-business? Pwede ka naman maging businessman, maski walang business. Pero syempre, nandito na ako, diba? Pero, every so often, we catch up and he gives me very direct, basically advice, no? And this last one, right? In 2019, right before, basically I, left to start Plentina, he sat me down for almost 2 hours and told me, why the time is now to start something, So, in fact, kasi sabi nga niya, madami daw nagtatanong sa kanya advice, should I start a business? Diba? Sabi niya, Earl, you've been asking me this for 10 years na. Sabi niya, either you start it or you don't start it. Pero pag, hindi mo stinart, wag mo na ako tanungin, di ba? Kasi, it's up to you if you want to do it or you don't want to do it, di ba? So, the time is now, sabi niya. And in fact, it was so comprehensive that si Maria, who's the wife of Dado, even sat me down and said, this is how you talk to your wife. Right? That you're going to leave the corporate world and start a business. And this is how Dado talked to me when he left this corporate life and started the business. So, this is the problem actually of entrepreneurship to our people who want to start companies, that, it's really a team sport, no? So, you have your family, your parents, right? So your children, but most important, obviously, is your significant other, either your husband or your wife, or your girlfriend or boyfriend, right? When you want to do this. Kasi medyo mag-iiba versus, let's say, getting, a normal corporate work. So that's why Dado was very adamant to say, you know what, we have to strategize to even how to look at your not just the professional life but also the personal life, and when is the opportunity in your life to do it. Sabi niya, you don't want to come out of this with regret na there was a point in your career na you had a chance tapos hindi mo rin ginawa, no? So sabi niya, that was what he was thinking as well, no? I could do it. I could be very successful in the industry, pero hindi daw, it can't be daw there, no? So yun yung parang namin, pinag-usapan namin. So he was very instrumental in basically many years, no, for us. So,
Jing, alam mo to si Earl, true-blooded na Silicon Valley executive kasi actually, di ba, pagpupunta tayo ng doon sa San Jose, di ba? Yung office ng Cisco, ang haba, gano'n. He worked there actually in Cisco and then VMware, EMC.
Tama.
How does it like working in Silicon Valley, in Cisco?
Aside from the culture, ano ba yung na wala dito sa Pilipinas o wala sa ibang mundo na na-experience mo lang sa Silicon Valley?
So to give context, right after Stanford, I was very, very lucky that one of my professors from Stanford was the first CEO of Cisco. And Cisco sa mga...
John Chambers?
So this is John. So John Morgridge actually is the person right before John Chambers. Siya yung boss ni John Chambers, no? So he had Cisco. So he was the person that took Cisco from very small startup into like billions of dollars, no? Tapos John Chambers scaled it na to make it a global company. So I was lucky that he was my professor. Tapos sabi ko, what should I do? Diba? Sabi niya, you should apply to Cisco but don't go to the big company. You should go to this small new unit that we created. So ano kaya yun? So it's called the incubation unit. Doon ko yung inspiration. And then the incubation unit of Cisco, ang charter dun is to find, filter, and basically select the next billion-dollar businesses of the company. So literally we find, all over the world. So there's like a parang competition, parang American Idol of technologies. We filter it. So 100 plus countries, no? So there's a contest that we run, 100 plus countries. Tapos we select them, tapos we find inspiration idea, and then we basically build a team around that idea to execute the business. And then, grow it, no? Eventually over time. So yun parang sabi niya, we unit kami kaka-start lang. You should consider going that. So I was, I think, the first intern in that group. Tapos I stayed there after. And, I helped run, parang Global Innovation Prize of Cisco, which is 100 plus countries, thousands of people who joined at the time. And and then also help build the internal startups of the company. So, and then...
Hindi ba napauso ng hackathon? Cisco ba napauso?
Yun, so, hindi naman, parang, we did like a lot of, parang hackathon or tawag nila ideathons, di ba?
Nung time na yun.
Kasi iba naman, di pwedeng, actually may mga parang internal, in competitions. So, minsan lawyers nagpa-participate or, service people, right? Hindi dapat, kasi pag hackathon, minsan, sa mga engineers lang yun, di ba? So they can hack and build something. So we said, how do we make it more inclusive and make a build ideathon, di ba? Pero the question of like, what is like in Silicon Valley to work? So there's a couple of things that I reflect on during my multiple times there. One of it is, mapapaisip ka talaga in most of the conversations kasi, my people from different parts of the world that will then talk to you about either their experience and their expertise, no? So kaya from China, from India, obviously, Americans, diba, Europeans, and they'll all approach the problem a different way, no? So para ako, Pinoy style ako mag-isip, parang sometimes I use emotion or I use pero iba, parang kunyari mga Germans, yun, very data-driven, yan. Parang ano yung numbers natin? Tapos parang, parang okay na yan But numbers pa, di ba? So parang, so you have different perspective, different way of doing business. And, everybody is like so obsessed, diba? The second one is, so everybody's obsessed in changing the status quo and changing the customer experience, no? Which is also an interesting thing. Kasi parang, yun nga parang naisip, parang everybody thinks na parang, okay, like ito yung nangyayari ngayon. Pag may technology tayong ginawa on top of it, change ba natin to para most people will get access to certain things, no? And in fact, like right now, galit tayo minsan sa mga malaking companies, to. Minsan, computer companies, social media, we're all kind of upset by them. Pero when they were small, think about it na, maybe Facebook, diba? I mean, what was life before Facebook? Diba? Maybe you text message people. Pero now we have a little bit of interconnectedness. So the time that they started that company, you're like, oh, how do I connect people together, diba? In a visual way, diba? So parang, those conversations happen almost on a daily basis, to be honest, no? So parang madami mga diskusyon, no? Yung sabi nga natin mga usapang lasing, hindi mga, hindi natin alam kung ano pinag-usapan, pero dun sa area na yon, nag-iisip pa natin ng mga ano man pwedeng gawin, ano mga ideas, ganun. So that was very different. And then the last one that I was really kind of shocked really is, how do you then, have the power that a small company can change a big company? Diba? And all the big companies there are worried about anong mangyayari itong mga small companies, baka mas malaki na to in the future than us. And this conversation of like the small can conquer the big is like, is something that it's necessarily, I would say it's a good or a bad thing, but it's something that people are conscious about and open to. Right? So yung collaboration ng big and small companies is very strong because hindi natin alam kung yung mga small companies na to na dati maliit lang, baka lumaki. And in fact, that was the, I think, even Yahoo tried to buy Google when it was small. Diba?
Yes.
Ngayon, mas malaki na yung Google by like times 10.
Wala
diba?
na Yahoo.
Wala na Yahoo. Nabili na ng Verizon, ng telco. Diba? So parang, these are things that was very apparent to us. I mean, nasa Cisco ko, sabi ko, wow, we're one of the biggest tech companies in the world. Pero we entertain lots of meetings of companies that are like 10 to 20 people. Diba? Sabi ko, wow, this is very interesting. So yun yung parang the bigger things. And that's kind of why, so one vacation I was in the Philippines, I got to meet by kind of accident. Kasi sa Cisco ko, I gave a talk. And then I eventually got to meet at the time, di ko pa siya masyadong kilala si Manny Pangilinan, si MVP, no?
MVP, that's the reason why you went home and start. So in fact, ito yung magandang story. So my wife is here and she's always part of the story because everything happened because, to be honest, because of what happened in our life. No? So me and my wife, we got married na sa US, sa San Francisco City Hall. Pero sabi niya, gusto ko lang ng small wedding, di ba? Ganun. So kasi 20 people, so small wedding tayo. Tapos, alam mo na, minsan, pag sa Pilipinas na, parang, yung barangay, yung pamilya, parang gustong, parang bakit maliit lang yung wedding mo, di ba? So eventually, after like siguro, 6 months, after the small wedding, sabi ng wife ko, actually parang, gusto ko yata ng totoong wedding, hindi yata pwede ginawa natin doon. Sabi ko, kala ko ba may tayo usapan na, diba? Small wedding. Sabi niya, okay. So hindi pwede sa Pinoy family yan, kailangan.
Exactly,
Tatlong baka, dapat ang kakapatid.
So alam mo, I mean, especially nakikinig na kaya sabi ko din beginning yung mga OFWs kasi may papaisip ka talaga. Syempre you have something there pero minsan yung pamilya mo sa Pilipinas, they want to share with the joy of your life, thing. So we had our second wedding sa Philippines, 'di ba? And at the time, yung country manager ng Cisco, who's actually the country manager of Amazon Web Services now, si Tep Misa.
Si Tep, we know Tep.
Si Tep. If you know Tep, sabi ni Tep, Earl, ikaw lang yung Pinoy dyan sa innovation team ng Cisco sa headquarters natin. Like, usapin mo naman yung mga customer natin. So, kinusap ko iba-ibang customer, ng Cisco. And one of the customers was Smart and PLDT. Diba? So, pero problema, this was 3 days or 2 days before my wedding in the Philippines. Sabi ng wife ko, anong klaseng discussion to? Meron tayong malaking wedding in 2 days, tapos mag-work ka, di ba? Sabi ko, okay. Kailan mo naman ko, si Tep yan, di ba? Pinoy, kailangan natin magano. And then, yung Smart shocked me. Sabi nila, oy, ilan tayo? Sige, may conference sila. Di naman masyadong importante. Pero ikaw yung para ginawa namin keynote speaker. Sabi ko, sige, keynote speaker. Sabi ko, sige, siguro mga 50 lang yung tao or whatever. Tapos,
this was a day before your...
2 days. Actually, baka 1 day before. I'm almost sure it's probably 1 day or at least 1 or 2 days before my wedding. Sabi ng wife ko, talagang hindi siya masaya noong time na yun. Sabi niya, bakit? Madami pa tayong pag-usapan, whatever. Pero sabi ko, hindi, kailangan di ba? So,
parang one big vacation ng wedding sa Pilipinas
Oo nga kaya nga So, I ended up, talking in Smart. They had this big innovation. I didn't know it's big. So, almost the entire company is invited to this conference. So, thousands of people. Tapos ako yung ginawa na lang parang keynote speaker. So, I didn't even know, like, an hour ago na ganito pala kalaki tong na to.
Oh my
Eventually, I was, after 4 months, I went back again to the Philippines kasi yung best friend ko naman nagpakasal. And then nakakuha ko ng text message na, yung boss namin is coming from Hong Kong. He wants to talk to you. Sabi niya, okay, I don't know who this guy is. Pero, sabi ko sa friends ko, yeah, there's this guy that parang they call him MVP, like he's coming from Hong Kong and I don't know who he is, pero anong feedback niyo sa kanila? Parang medyo sikat naman siya, magaling sa gusto niya mga basketball, gano'n. So, sige. Usapan kami ng basketball. Ayan, so, eventually we talked about basketball and stuff. But the question that they asked me during this time, again, the second time I went to the Philippines in 4 months is, Earl, like how do we create like a Silicon Valley environment sa Philippines, no? Tapos, syempre galing ako sa incubator ng Cisco where we were trying to give this. Sabi ko, we should just replicate what Cisco did in the US and build it in the Philippines. Sabi niya, okay, very interesting. So we talked for like at least 4 hours during the time.
Wow.
And then, and then sabi niya, and then we talked about many things like, buying NBA teams or partnering NBA teams and all, halo-halo na. Pero a lot of it, the core was, how do we recreate Silicon Valley and build, let's say, this culture in the Philippines? And I said, this is my thoughts. This is what I've been thinking about. This is what I did in Cisco. And then sabi niya, okay, when you want to come back to the Philippines, you have an open job offer. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, no? But literally like the hour or 2 hours before my flight, the head of HR of Smart sat me down in a hotel and said, hey, MVP really wants you. So I'm not planning to come back, but here's your offer to be like head of innovation of Smart that, you take your time when you want to think. Sabi ko, kala ko vacation lang ako dito. Ano ba nangyayari dito? So that was the story. Right? I ended up back in the Philippines and created IdeaSpace, obviously headed innovation for Smart, which is one of your sponsors. No? So ganon. So I was in the Philippines for 4 years. Very interesting things. Bought a number of interesting companies there. We launched at the time, Uber, diba? And Facebook tried some negotiations with them. But then also building the IdeaSpace, which is, sabi nga tanong niyo, ano ba yung Incubator? It's a place where people who have good business ideas, to come and basically build the first iteration of their business. No? So paano ba ako mag-start? We provide them with mentorship, with access to potential investors, knowledge experts, yung parang ganon. We'll surround us. Para kung incubator kasi parang baby yung idea mo di ba? So how do we build a village around your idea and hopefully it becomes nurturing the idea para hopefully, right, it has a chance to grow, di ba?
Yeah.
Parang seed yan, parang planted, di ba? You want to give it a chance to grow, put nutrients, ganun. So parang ganun yung incubator.
Ito ka talaga nun.
Yun nga So parang ganun yung nangyari. Tapos one thing that we realized is that we can do it by ourselves, but what we realized is we have to do it with the government to make it really national scale. Diba? So yun ang nangyari, kaya we built Kubo, which is again the first public-private partnership on innovation and startups in Philippine history, no? So we're lucky that we had forward-looking kind of, basically, secretaries, and some of them are obviously also there, DOS secretary, DTI secretary, DICT was still under DOST at the time.
Yes.
And, we all sat in the room, and sakto, ito yung magaling mga swerte na naman, no? Sakto that APEC, which is the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, minsan famous yan sa Pilipinas kasi medyo traffic parati pag APEC, they close down roads, mga dignitaries, whatever, right? Oh, so, nakita ng government natin na yung mga ibang countries, they're asking our government, hey, ano yung innovation conference nyo during APEC? Kasi yun yung parang sikat sa mga area namin sa Russia, sa California, right? Sa ibang, pati mga Latin America, they're having innovation culture, discussions. So tinanong yung government natin, o kayo yung host ng APEC, ano yung innovation conference nyo? So all of a sudden, ang naging priority ng government natin, tapos sabi niya, paano natin gagawa tayo ng conference nito, di ba? So eventually, we built a conference in APEC called Slingshot with the DTI, right?
Yeah, I know that. I always cover that event.
So Slingshot became the first large-scale government-sponsored and organized, not sponsored, government-sponsored a lot, but organized innovation startup event again in history. Tapos sakto because they were saying, Earl, parang we need a private sector partner kasi they do the formal government style where they write a formal letter, they send it to people, ano yung reaction nila. So sabi ko, hindi, anong mangyayari dito? Tapos sabi niya, Earl, we have a problem though. Sabi ko, ano yun? We have 8 weeks before we reserve PICC. Pero wala pa kaming speaker. Anong gagawin namin, di ba? Tapos sabi ko, oh my gosh, like, medyo 8 weeks, parang for an APEC conference, medyo nakastress to Pero sabi ko, sige, let me send emails now and see what will happen. Sabi ko, and in exchange, you just have to agree that whoever we invite, you just have to fly them to the Philippines. Kasi, we don't know where they're coming from. Sabi ko, I have some people. Tapos I asked a favor to some of my friends. No? So one of my friends started one of the first government startup programs in the world called Startup Chile. Chile is the country in Latin America. So he was my classmate in Stanford. In fact, when he got the job to be the chief innovation officer of their country. So this is something also interesting. So we were literally in Stanford. Tapos he got a call. We were in a group meeting for homework. I said, Earl, you can't believe it. I go, what? One of the ministers in my country just called me and offered me a job. So I go, wow, what is job? So I go, it's to head innovation for the country. So, wow. May ganon pala. Sabi ko, may innovation, ganon. No. Sabi ko, okay, let's see. Tapos eventually built this big program that was now the gold standard for country-level innovation startup support called Innovation Chile. So I emailed him and say, hey, dude, like, I know this is going to be weird, but we're hosting APEC and we don't have a keynote speaker. Can you come here as a personal favor? Diba? Sabi ko. It's in 8 weeks. It's actually the time, 6 weeks na lang. It's in 6 weeks. Can you come? Tapos, sabi niya, in-replyan ako after a bit. Sabi niya, I'm not sure about the Philippines, but I'll do it for you. So I'll take a 24-hour flight because I want to see you. Sabi ko, okay, good. So once he confirmed, dire-diretso na. So we got every other speaker, VCs, regional heads of, Airbnb, Uber, etc. So parang we now had this big conference. And then one of my professors from Stanford, I said the same thing. Si Richard Dasher, who heads the Asia Technology Center. Sabi ko, Professor, we need a legit academician. Siyempre, APEC, kailangan meron akong professor, no? So we need a professor who's in Stanford to also keynote. Can you come? Ayun, so sabi niya, okay, cool. I will also come to the Philippines. So once we had the 2 big keynote speakers, Slingshot was really accelerated, no? So we were really lucky that they both said yes, and because of Slingshot, I think it was solidified that the startup ecosystem was growing, no? I mean, people for technology, engineering, right? It's software, right? Hindi lang yun others. So because of that, the government agencies realized, how do we work together with private sector to basically build a program together for startups, and that's how Kubo was born in that conference in Slingshot, APEC.
I was there, Earl. I was there invited by DTI yata. I was called by
DTI was the head of some of these.
I remember that Uber guy announcing that they were parang agreeing to abide by the yung rules set out by the DOTR regarding yung right TNVS model, right?
Yes.
Oo. I was there.
Madami yun. But it was a pivotal time, I guess, in our timeline, no? So, kasi yung kailangan. Kasi alam mo yung mga Pinoy, no? Madami tayong inisip ng mga good ideas, no? But how do we get the support, no? To get it come through? And, this was one of the first ones that the government is helping with not just with each agency, but all the agencies together. Right, the DOST, the DTI, and the DICT, right, to come together with the private sector to accelerate yung ideas ng lahat ng mga tao, no. So it's really was a great experience there.
Earl, let's talk about your latest venture,
Kubo.
Plentina, not Plantita.
Oo nga, actually, Plentina, diba? Pero Plentina ang pangalan, pero I'll tell you more about the history of Plentina.
Okay. Yeah, can you discuss about this startup of yours?
Oh yeah, of course. So alam mo naman tayo, no? I mean, we sa Philippines mahilig tayo, to get credit, no? So credit or but pero problema yung mga bangko, they don't know who's credit worthy or not, no? So parang ganoon yung parang problema natin. Walang credit score. Walang score mismo na everybody thinks it's a standard, no? So sabi namin, so that was the thing. So kasi actually the past 4 years I was in the tech side of Wall Street, no? So I was first in AI algorithmic hedge fund ang tawag nila, no? It's an investment fund that uses AI, artificial intelligence, in order to make its investment decisions. It's called Bridgewater. It's the largest hedge fund in the world. And then most recently, I was in San Francisco, dun sa a large bank called Charles Schwab. They are one of the largest ones where people can buy and sell stocks naman for free. So if you're in Charles Schwab, you can buy and sell stocks for free. So I was in basically the digital team of Charles Schwab to figure out how to make this all streamlined via technology, no? So parang naisip ko, you can really use this whole new world now of data, etc., right, in order to unlock financial services. Kasi this is what these two big firms did, no? Charles Schwab, you can now trade for free because they invested so much in technology. So the banks in the Philippines, sabi ko, okay, how do we work or at least complement, if not parallel, the bank, but then using really big technology. And we realized that there's two things that needs to be done. One is an alternative credit score. So how do we build someone and use basically different types of data in order for us to build the credit profile, and then have something on top of it, basically a platform where we don't give cash, but we digitally disperse basically electronic basically goods or something like a purchase, right? So ang tawag nila sa buong mundo, buy now, pay later, right? So if you build the score, can you then disperse a buy now, pay later without giving cash? Kasi ang cash, nakita namin naman sa mga tao, and again, it's not to everybody, but we saw a lot of studies where madaming nag-uutang sa Philippines, pero minsan nagagasa sila sa hindi yun, utang sila para sa groceries, di ba? Para sa anak nila, groceries. Tapos biglang, na-distract, di ba? Napunta na sa iPhone, napunta na sa iba, o may ibang mga kumuha na sa mga friends na, utang na sa kanila. Parang nawala na yung pera, di ba? Pero but I bought this to buy, let's say, groceries, diba? Or I bought this to buy, medicines nga eh. Pero hindi na gawa dahil nawala yung pera. So sabi namin, okay, how do we lock, diba, yung purchase mo? So we have both. We understand kind of your credit profile, and then we layer on a platform. We work with a lot of retailers, no? And basically say, okay, how can we disperse only the credit of your retailer? So kunyari, ang nag-launch kami, and thank you Melvin for coming, at 7-Eleven. No? So we basically understand the 7-Eleven customers and also other customers. And then when someone wants to say, I actually want to create and load up 500 pesos of click credits, right, which is a 7-Eleven credits. So they can buy their stuff in 7-Eleven. And eventually they pay over after 14 days, no? With zero interest flat fee para hindi mo na iisip kung ano ba talaga yung fees ito, transparent ba, etc. So that's what we're doing with large retailers now. And we're doing that for 7-Eleven and their new online grocery that they just launched.
So basically, identify mo kung bakit ka uutang ng pera, ganon?
Oo nga, so that's why. So we're working and we're talking to, kunyari, mga pharmacies, di ba? So baka inisip mo, kailangan ko ng medicine. So ba't ka bibigyan ng cash kung kailangan mo ng medicine, di ba? So why don't you magutang ka ng medicine credit loan? Diba? Or grocery credit loan, right? Or
do you have a pharmacy partner? I mean, are you talking to a pharmacy partner?
Yeah, we're still in the talks with a number of pharmacies, but coming soon tayo sa pharmacies. No? Pharmacies, airlines is something that's important now kasi yung mga Pinoy, we have to connect, right? So, and minsan, madami kami mga store na kaya sa Manila, maski domestic, no? You could be in Manila for, ay mo maggastos square, bumulik sa mo, pero kailangan kasi kunyari, may family reunion o may sakit yun, mga kamag-anak, so you want to come home. So we want to also flex that so that even domestic travel becomes easier, diba? Para, if you really need to go somewhere, we give you basically this, fly now, pay later and potentially.
Kamusta naman yung reaction nila? How yung idea, ano nila doon?
Yeah, I think it's good, no? I mean, it's good and bad as well because Philippines, we like, actually, best sa culture natin yun parang pag-uutang, no? Yun, how many gives. Pero the reaction of the market has been very good. In fact, now we're, more than, I think 20,000 downloads na yata. 4 months lang kami na we just launched. And then if you look at the App Store, I think we're like one of the top 5 highest rated apps in the loans category in 4.8 or 4.7 stars per Google Play Store lang kami. Pero one of the highest rated in the Philippines for our category. So it's interesting kasi 4 months old lang yun. It took us much more longer to get our lending license, right, from the SEC. And we work with them. I mean, pandemic, so we totally understand. But we launched only in October, and then we're growing quite quickly. The response has been good, and the better is that the customers, what do they like about it? Number one is that they said, it's fast, no. So we can approve someone if they get the loan or not in minutes, no. It's all digital. There's no paperwork. You take pictures of things, right? So, and we basically do it very streamlined. So you can really understand if you're approved for a 7-Eleven loan in like less than 5 minutes. Diba?
Oh, okay.
So that's very good for it. It's very fast. So people say, it's maganda yan kasi fast, no? And then the other one that we didn't expect is, this notion of like, it's very convenient. So we get a lot of emails about, I really needed to buy, yung baby ko ng gatas, right? Or I really need to buy food. Parang you saved me right before the pecha de peligro, diba?
Yeah.
Yun, 14 and 15 and 30, minsan 13 and 14, medyo kapos ka ng pera. So we save them. We help them daw. So we got other comments on that. And then another comment was, kasi me at saka actually all Pinoy team kami, right? So sabi nila, hindi natin alam na mga Pinoy pala can build these types of technologies. So madami kaming comments na, proudly Pinoy made, na ganun-ganun. So very heartwarming to na, as a Pinoy team, we can do this for
katanong ano daw credit limit? Hanggang magkano daw sila pwede umutang?
Okay, yeah. So ang mangyayari kasi dito sa Plentina is that we start you out small and then every time you repay, we increase your limit. para siyang game. I don't have to explain it, no? Parang 100 ang starting, pero you can choose now 100, either is it 7-Eleven, 100 pesos, which you can buy things, or a smart loan, right? For 100 pesos too, right? So slow, 100 pesos loan, that's 1 week worth of loan, no? So you can choose, pero every time you repay, we increase your limit. Diba? So 100 to 50, diba? Etc.
Reward
And then,
sa kanila, no? Yung
parang reward for good behavior, diba? Yan nga sabi namin na you can now build your credit basically profile or report. And we have to report to the CIC, which is the government agency at some point. So imagine na ngayon, you're only taking 7-Eleven loans, pero sa future, because if you're a good customer, baka qualified ka na sa mga loans sa banko dahil maganda yung profile mo sa, information agencies natin, no? So, yun yung parang inisip namin, but we then will partner with more and more merchants with larger credits. Kaya yun nga potentially we piloted with AirAsia recently, right? So we're gonna look at more like practical things that in the market wants, kung ano yung mga merchants na gusto nila, no? But yeah, the limit, the starting is 100, pero it almost doubles every time you repay.
Where do they repay their loans, Earl?
Very convenient actually, no? So any 7-Eleven store in the Philippines. So there's 3,000 of them all over the Philippines. And then also sa click machine, or actually mas high-tech pa kami because we integrated 7-Eleven. They can just go to the app, show a barcode sa app mismo. Go to the counter and then wala na machine. Just go to our app. Yun lang, ito yung barcode, bayad na ako, di ba? Very convenient.
Galing.
Or GCash or Grab Pay, di ba?
Oh,
so,
GCash. Okay.
So, may mga tao na hindi ako mag 7-Eleven, may extra naman ako sa GCash. So, gano'n. Pero either in cash in 7-Eleven or you can do it also in the wallets. No?
Alam mo, Jing, very important tong magkaroon tayo ng credible na digital financing company like Plentina, kasi right now this sector is parang having a parang bad reputation kasi nga there are a lot of lending apps na
tama, yes, nagkaroon ng issue, no? Controversy.
Nagkaroon ng issue, yung pinapahiya. Yung
harassment.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Marami it's a tapos yung digital what do you call this, yung data ng mga ng mga borrowers. Pero with the company like Plentina na run by and founded by Silicon Valley rockstar Earl Valencia and Kevin
Gabayan.
Gabayan.
Taga Google yan si Kevin eh. Kababayan din yan.
Kababayan ko yan. Taga Norte, Ilocos Norte.
Ilocos siya. Isabela.
So,
yung kaibigan namin from Taipei, si Paolo Joseph Lising, is watching right now. Sabi niya, let's partner Earl. I plan to bring some Pinoy startups here. Ibig sabihin, gusto niya dalhin sa Taiwan.
Taiwan. Wow.
Co-working space here in Taipei. So,
wow. Sige. Tama.
Pwede nga mag-connect na lang sila sa
connect na lang tayo. Alam nyo naman sa LinkedIn ako or
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn nyo lang ako, Earl Valencia. Ako lang yata Earl Martin Valencia sa buong LinkedIn eh. So pero yeah, I think that's the key sa financial services natin, no? Like how do we just get people that are reputable, right? And also people that
pera eh. Diba?
Mahirap talaga usapang pera. So but then the moral, na-train naman ako sa sa some parts of the banks sa US, and my co-founder again is from Google. So Google, he was trained on like data privacy and how important data is. Yeah. Then ako naman is like you have to really trust. So sabi nga sa Schwab, what I learned is trust is so easy to lose. So it's hard to earn but easy to lose.
That's very true. That's very true.
So kailangan pag financial institution ka, pera, I mean you're moving money, right? Like that's very important, very personal to people. And the worst thing to do nga is to, and to be honest, no, maybe because some of the people who run these companies, they don't care about the people, right? They don't care about the Filipino, right? They don't care about us, no? So I think the key is, how do you also bring in leaders that care about their end customer, right? Because why will you harass? Ba't ka magpapahiya ng tao kung, if you care about them, diba?
Yes.
So that's something also, and I think it's maybe it's because we're Pinoy, we care about kababayan natin, no?
Yeah.
I mean, we understand. So madami yung nag-email sa amin na parang, I really want to pay. Can I pay it later? Siyempre, there could be a late fee.
Marami naman talagang
pero we understand. May dami naman good payer eh. So it's not like, why would you default to harassing, diba? When you can just ask them, like, is there something wrong? Can you understand? Parang ganon. So let's see. But I think, can we build a company built on, again, trust and privacy in the Philippines, right? Is something that we are also proving to the market that if we can do it.
Pero the opportunity to prosper in this market is big kasi wala pang unbanked in the Philippines. Tapos kasi di ba kaya nga marami sa atin pupunta sa 5-6 alam mo sa Mumbai.
Oo nga eh.
Di ba?
Oo nga eh. Oo, yeah.
Percentage na may credit card sa Pilipinas. Ang liit pa rin.
Wala pa baka 2%, 3% lang. So correct, I think that's what we're doing, na parang ang key is, bakit ka kailangan ng credit card kung meron kang parang a system like Plentina that can be accepted in all these merchants, no? Parang ganoon yung philosophy namin na, can we have a better way, no? For this kasi, I mean, digital na tayo sa Pilipinas, no? Parang, how do we have a purely digital experience for financial services? Yun parang inisip namin kasi, mahirap na ngayon, parang especially yung pandemic, na-expose na lahat na pag hindi ka digital, medyo mahirap diba? So we have to build that, in our system. So
okay, Earl, we're almost run out of time. Kasi 1 hour na pala tayo.
Earl.
Siguro na lang, we'll ask parang parting words from you. Siguro you can invite our listeners, Plentina.
Plentina, sorry.
Yeah. Hindi Plentita, Plentina. Plentina. Pero yeah, I mean,
last question, Earl. Why Plentina?
Sure.
Ano yung word? Bakit Plentina? The word Plentina.
I came back, and maybe this is somewhat of part of my parting words, So si Kevin, right? So nasa church daw siya, tapos mayroon song, Welcome to the Table of Plenty. Diba? So parang we will invite you, everybody, maski, what situation you have, we will invite you to our table. Na there's plenty here, diba? And then how do we make it sound nice? Pero parang in the end, sabi ko, parang Pinoy, diba?
Yes.
Plentina. Pero syempre, pagkano, Plentina, di ba? Plentina. Pero pag internal sa atin, parang Plentina. Marami na. Pero medyo funny, di ba? Medyo funny So, but yeah, that's the thought. So, mga nakikinig, if you want to try out Plentina, again, it's very easy. Hopefully you'll look at that, and that helps you build your credit and your credit limit over time. And we'll partner with more and more merchants. We started with 7-Eleven with their online store and their Click Grocery. We also have Smart Ready platform, and we're looking for more and more merchants to partner with for you, for the customer. And maybe the last words is, again, I always advocate for Filipino innovation. So if you have a great idea, don't lose it, don't give up. It's going to be hard, but you have a lot of people that support you now, even compared to 10 years ago. So, we're looking for the next, Dada Banatas of the world. And maybe at some point, some of you listening will build the next Facebook of the Philippines, right? Yeah. So, hopefully people will not give up on those dreams.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Earl Martin Valencia, the co-founder of Plentina.
Thank you, Martin.
And Earl. A lot of other startups, incubators, and accelerators. Jing, yung contribution ni Earl sa startup ecosystem ng Philippines is really tremendous, no? Yes. So we'd like to acknowledge his contributions.
Kaya natin sinama sa in-between agad si Earl.
Oo,
Oo.
talaga. Lodi.
So,
So, thank you very much, Earl, and we wish you more success, especially with Plentina. Okay, maraming po salamat sa lahat
Thank you.
nakisalo sa atin for tonight. Sila Paolo, sila RJ, sila...
we're here to inspire. Kaya natin may
Oo.
programa to para ma-inspire tayo. Kaya namin sinasama yung mga guests namin dito sa programa namin na to. Is to inspire people pagdating po sa technology. Yes, maging part po tayong lahat ng digital revolution ng Pilipinas.
Correct. Okay, kita-kita po ulit tayo next week. Jing?
Yes. Okay. Jing Garcia po ng TechSabado.com. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan. TechSabado sa darating na Saturday, 8 p.m. din po. Like at follow niyo po aming mga social media pages. Facebook.com/TechSabado at saka Facebook.com/Newsbytes.PH. Nasa Twitter din po kami at TechSabado at saka @Newsbytes.PH. Sa mga nanonood ng aming channel sa TechSabado, no, suportahan niyo po ang in-between. Nandun po ang way kung paano niyo po kami suportahan. May link po kami nakapost sa aming Facebook page and of course sa aming YouTube channel. Of course, don't forget to to listen to our podcast. Kung na-miss niyo po itong programa na to, available ba ito by the end of the week? Nasa Spotify po itong In Between podcast na to with Earl Valencia. Maraming salamat PLDT Smart Group Corporate Communications Team for their continuing support. Thank you MSI AMD for the support on our tech news website TechSabado.com. XSplit for the support on our weekly streaming. Don't forget TechSabado this Saturday. Paulit-ulit ko sinasabi kasi kailangan po namin ng audience ninyo at saka sa In Between every Wednesday. Okay, wear a mask, stay home, stay safe. Maraming salamat po. Thank you, Attorney. Thank you sa inyo
Earl.
lahat. Thank you, Earl.
Thank you.
Ganda ng kwento.